So, Ahmed, if you're a terrorist, I would suppose you have some sort of specialty.
Yes, I am the suicide bomber.
So you're finished. What?
Jeff Dunham, America's top-earning comedian, is known for building dummies.
You ever been to any marriage counseling?
Yes.
What'd that do for you?
Look at me.
But his crafting prowess goes well beyond Walter, knockmeat, and peanut.
It's Dunham. Now, when you look at it, it says Dunham, just Dunham.
North America's top touring comic for the second consecutive year builds full-size helicopters.
When did you start your fascination with helicopters? How?
I was a little kid and we went to the state fair. I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and they were giving rides in a little Bell helicopter for, a couple bucks, and my parents and I got in and we went straight up and we're flying around and came down, and I thought, this is the coolest thing ever. No doors. It was unbelievably great. So I had a fascination with flying toys as I was growing up, and usually helicopters. And then when I got older, I started flying radio control helicopters.
But what was that turning point for you, where you went from just having these models for a while,
right,
built pretty big models, 3 to 4 feet, correct?
Right.
Or
right.
even
One
5
of them
feet
6 foot long, yeah, big
wow.
giant thing.
And then you realized you could build full-size ones, and that was actually a friend of yours that introduced you to that.
Right, we found this thing it was a junkyard, and it was an old one. And I said, is this a legitimate company? And we looked it up in Popular Mechanics magazine, and sure enough, and I sent off for the videotape and the packet, and it was nuts. People told me I was crazy. I didn't tell my parents about it for a long time. I faked it, because you have to have a next of kin sign the contract. I faked my father's signature, and yeah. So I was there. I was 24. I was their youngest builder and pilot. And Rotorway is the name of the company. And I built it and flew it for hundreds of hours all over Central Texas.
Even though you were booking more shows during the time that you were building this helicopter, you didn't put as much pressure on yourself to pursue your goal of getting on The Tonight Show.
Right.
But when you have something that you can focus your energy on, aside from your normal day-to-day career and goals, it allows you a little bit more patience. And I'll give you an analogy, and I'm embarrassed for even saying this, but my mom always says to me, the right man will come along when you're not looking.
Yes, eventually a man came along and Jeff was happy. No?
No.
No.
Yeah, and I didn't get in too much of a hurry. I stopped pushing. And I just kind of knew that it would come along. I knew that it would happen. And that's what during that helicopter time is also when I came up with Walter, and when I came up with Peanut, and I came up with Jose Jalapeno on a Stick. That was all during that time of not really pushing, and trying too hard. So I was able to let my mind rest, and then that stuff would percolate in the back of my head, and suddenly I'd think, wait a minute, I can do this. And I do that even now. If I come up with something that's a distraction and a diversion, those creative juices start to bubble up.
How many have you built? How many full-size?
Working on the 4th one right now.
You're working on the 4th one.
And they're 2-seaters. They fly 100 miles an hour. They cruise 100 miles an hour. Then they go 200 miles on a full tank of gas. So it's a real helicopter. You have to have your license, the whole thing.
And Walter, you've been up with him, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been up a few times, and I don't know, it must be a little disconcerting for someone to ride in a helicopter and go, wow, this was built by the same guy who built Walter.